Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by the Unger Real Estate Group, brokered by eXp Realty, proudly serving Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties. Call 407-790-9957 or visit WeSellOrlando.net. Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon here with you on this, here we are coming off of a bye week. Brian Murphy is joining me. Hey, Brian.
Hi, Jeffrey.
And Luke Sarris is joining us for this show. Hey, Luke.
Hello, hello.
And we are at blackandgoldbanneret.com. We are SB Nation's home for your UCF Knights. You can follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. You can follow us at UCF_Banneret and follow us individually at boy, I totally blanked on that. Jeff_Sharon, Spokes_Murphy, and Luke Sarris, SBN. You're going to have to change your handle to Luke Sarris, Luke, when we get around to Halloween, I'm sure. When people change their Twitter handles and stuff for that. Anyway, don't forget Facebook.
It's just Luke with like a Raleigh Fingers mustache. Yeah.
We are at facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret as well, if you care to follow us there. And you can subscribe to this podcast, if you don't already, on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. All right, boys, let's dive right in. We've been looking forward to this game for quite some time now. Maybe it's lost a little bit of the shine, but I don't know. As we approach Friday night, it's coming. Friday night, 7 p.m. kick, UCF against Lane Kiffin and the FAU Owls. FAU comes in 2-1. They had a lot of juice coming into that opener against Oklahoma, but then they, kind of laid an egg in that game against the 7th-ranked Sooners, losing 63-14. I think a lot of people expected FAU to be a lot more competitive in that game than they were. Since then, they've won 2 straight. They beat Air Force by 6. They beat Bethune-Cookman last week by 21. Gave up some points in that game. They gave up 28 points in that game. But still, the Lane train is 2-1 as it pulls into Orlando for the first time in 15 years. Brian Murphy, you've been around the team this week. UCF is obviously well-rested, coming off of not playing a game against North Carolina because that was canceled because of the hurricane. So I don't know. What's in store for Josh Heupel and company? What have they been able to do to keep themselves sharp and get ready for this game against a fellow in-state school?
Well, we know that UCF started game planning for FAU last Thursday. They found out last week, after they found out that they would not go to North Carolina, they took the Wednesday off. They came back on Thursday, started putting the game plan for FAU. They talk, in pretty general terms about FAU, but I think if you look at how a team like Oklahoma attacked FAU with Kyler Murray, a mobile dual threat quarterback, launching these big deep passes, down the field that were really successful, both him running with the ball and him throwing it downfield. Isn't that kind of what UCF does? It just feels like a carbon copy of what UCF can already do. I think that's one thing I'm really interested to see is can this defense, if it couldn't stop Kyler Murray, does it have any chance also against Mackenzie Melton and all those deep threats? So they haven't said a whole lot. They've been very complimentary about Devin Singletary, the star running back, but I think we're ready to play a game.
Luke, you have the preview up on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Another fine job indeed.
Thank you.
When you broke this game down and when you broke FAU down, what stood out to you in particular, other than, obviously what Brian mentioned and how they, Kyler Murray just had a field day against them for Oklahoma. What stood out to you for this FAU team in terms of something that they can fix heading into this game?
I don't know if something stood out that I don't know if I was looking at it from a standpoint of what can they fix. When I was looking at the team, I really tried to take that Oklahoma game out of the picture because, Oklahoma is one of the best teams in the country. I mean, they could be in the playoff this year. So I tried to take that out of the view. And the thing that stood out to me the most was their defense is performing very poorly. You look at a team like Bethune-Cookman, they gave up 28 points to Bethune-Cookman. They gave up 27 to Air Force. Not saying that, I'm not trying to take anything away from either of those teams, but Bethune-Cookman, an FCS team, Air Force traditionally hasn't been the strongest opponent. The big thing that sticks out is that they rank in the bottom 20 in the country in rushing yards allowed per game, yards per rush, and rushing touchdowns, I believe, are the three. It's in my article. So they're having a hard time stopping the run. And on the flip side, UCF has the third most yards per carry in the nation. So I know Brian touched on how Mackenzie Milton may be able to slice and dice his defense, but I think a big thing to watch is how our ground game, especially with the way they've been performing with the performance of the offensive line, they could steal the show, especially with Mackenzie coming off, slightly a rough game for his standards. This trio, or if you want to throw Otis into the mix, this group of running backs could really steal the show, and which is funny because you expect the run game to be highlighted by Singletary.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about FAU with Cyrus Smith, who joined us from Underdog Dynasty, also part of SB Nation. But UCF comes in a double-digit favorite in this game, at 13.5. Over-under. I haven't checked the over-under recently, but I went back in the archives to take a look to see if Josh Heupel and Lane Kiffin had gone up against each other in some fashion as coaches. Interestingly enough, Heupel was the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma when they defeated Alabama in the 2014 Sugar Bowl. However, Lane Kiffin wasn't at Alabama at the time. He was hired 10 days later and to be Alabama's offensive coordinator, which I thought was interesting. But especially when you consider that Alabama kind of got run out of the building in that game by Oklahoma and Josh Heupel's offense. Do we expect Brian, I'll toss this back to you. Do we expect to see, a lot more new wrinkles from UCF in this game from Josh Heupel? Is this going to be more like the UConn game where we're going to try and unload some stuff, or is this going to be like the South Carolina State game where, where we're probably not going to show our hand too much? What do you expect?
No, they're going to play it. I think they're going to play it as it goes. And if Luke's right and if I'm right with what we both said about FAU's defense, kind of whatever this team is going to throw out is going to pretty much be available to them. So, I don't know if you're saying like they're going to hold anything back since FAU. Like, they're not going to do that. They wouldn't say that, nor do I think they're going to do that. You're going to see them run their usual offense. What's kind of fun is both these teams run tempo. So it's going to be a fast-paced game on both sides.
You might be there a while.
Yeah. We might be running 140 plays out here on Friday night.
Yeah, good thing they're starting it at 7 on Friday night, because it might end after midnight.
I'm not going to get it until sunrise. Yeah, I think you'll see the regular UCF offense because, I think a lot of things that they do, deep passes, kind of gadget stuff with their running backs. I think that stuff's going to be all open to them. I think it's going to be available to them. By the way, I checked. The over-under opened at 69.5. It's now at 77.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at OddsShark right now. This is interesting, too. UCF's still a 13.5-point favorite, but 60% of the bets are on UCF. 70% of the money wagered on the over-under has been on the over of 71. So Friday night fireworks at Spectrum Stadium. Luke, the thing that stood out to me about FAU has been Chris Robinson, the quarterback for them. A lot of similarities to Mackenzie Milton in his first year, don't you think?
I don't know if I'd say that. I truly think they're just two different quarterbacks. I think they're similar in the sense where they're both trying to, get settled and find their identity with the offense. But Robinson doesn't bring the threat with his legs that Mackenzie had. When Mackenzie was a true freshman, when all else failed, he could roll out of the pocket and make plays with his feet. Robinson doesn't really have that ability.
Yeah, they're both kind of shorter guys. Robinson's 6'1". He's from Mesquite, Texas, interestingly enough. He actually transferred over from originally at Oklahoma. He was originally in Oklahoma, came over. So he's officially listed as a redshirt freshman. But, you see a guy, kind of settling in with a young coach. There's going to be a little bit of growing pains. I think that's what FAU certainly dealt with in these first couple of games with him. But he looked to have settled in quite nicely against Bethune-Cookman last week. By the way, interestingly enough, last meeting between these two squads. Any of you guys care to guess? I know both. Actually, I know Luke. Brian.
I believe it was the only meeting between the two squads, correct?
That's correct. 2003.
2003?
Yeah.
Somebody read my article.
Yeah, somebody's been reading Luke Sarris. It was a 33-29 UCF win at the Citrus Bowl. Ryan Schneider, interestingly enough, in his final year at UCF, threw for 497 yards in that game, and that still stands as the school record for most passing yards by a quarterback in a game. Also, interestingly enough, for UCF, two future NFL receivers both had 100 yards receiving in that game. A young Brandon Marshall and an even younger Mike Sims Walker. Back then he was just known as Mike Walker. They both had 100 yards in that game. UCF actually, FAU was a third-year FCS program coming into the Citrus Bowl in that game, coached by Howard Schnellenberger, who obviously we remember him from Miami and helped bring Miami to prominence, founded the FAU program in Boca. And FAU stuck with UCF throughout that game. It was tied at 14 at the half. UCF was able to come out in front, but then FAU made a late rally and actually had a couple of passes to the end zone fall incomplete in the final seconds that would have given FAU a victory in a season where UCF ended up going 3-9. It wasn't a good year for that. It was actually that year Mike Cruzette got fired. And
Q. George O'Leary. That's right. So in the meantime, FAU they actually had a pretty good year that year in 1AA under Howard Schnellenberger. So
I don't know if you've seen it. FAU has put out their hype video for this game on their Twitter account.
I did in fact see that. Not bad.
It's actually a pretty well produced video. It does it does a lot of like dramatic comparison between the two schools and the two programs. And at the end of it, the three words that you're left with are ignite this rivalry. So, I mean, look, these teams haven't played since 2003. They do play next year. It's actually FAU's home opener in Boca. So we'll have two meetings in less than a year. But after that, I don't know when these teams are meeting again. But with the White brothers involved, maybe this will be something that we'll get to see more often.
That would be fun. I know that back in 2003, that loss to UCF was after that, FAU won 10 games in a row and actually managed to make it all the way to the Division I AA semifinals, where they lost at home to Colgate. But that was the beginning of something at FAU that has grown into this program being in actually where UCF kind of was as a member of Conference USA. And we'll talk more about that with Cyrus Smith after the break. But before we get to that, I wanted to discuss some personnel matters around here. Namely having to do with Lane Kiffin just sticking his nose into everybody's business. You may have noticed on blackandgoldbanneret.com our story up there. I actually wrote it because I give Brian credit. He's like, no. I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Please, you do it. And I'm not afraid to say things that that might ruffle some feathers about Lane Kiffin. But he put up this graphic in the locker room, or in the weight room actually, of what was purportedly a quote from Neville Clark of UCF about Devin Singletary, the running back for FAU, and the quote was supposedly from Clark, quote, "He's a pretty good back, however, I look forward to stopping him dead in his tracks," end quote. There's only one problem with that, Brian Murphy. Would you care to illuminate what that problem is?
Sure. The problem is that although Neville Clark did say he's a pretty good back, he didn't say the rest of that quote.
And how do we know that?
because the rest of the quote was written by somebody I know. He's kind of a jerk, and it's mean.
So
I really think we need to get Lane Kiffin to get with the Photoshop team and have Neville Clark and you side by side on the poster.
Do you know how? I really need to. No. Yeah, you know what? We need to do this. We need to do this right now. We need to get like something, Adobe Spark or something, and like figure this whole thing out and put like Brian's picture on it. I swear we're going to do that.
I want to do that. Like, I know we have some fans who are like really good with Photoshop, and I was like going to ask somebody like, look, can you like cross out the part that Neville didn't say, and then just leave it there, but then like circle it and just say Brian Murphy instead of Neville Clark.
Guys, you're talking to a graphic design guru. I will have this tomorrow.
You're on it.
Let's go, Luke.
You're on it. Here we go. I knew this would pay huge dividends. I mean, it's just.
It's absurd. This is absurd.
Well,
by the way,
let's think about this for a
real.
second. Let's think about this for a second. Like Lane Kiffin, right? Okay. You know what you're going to get from Lane Kiffin, right? He's going to try and stir the pot. And he's going to try and light a fire under his guys. I mean, coaches are great at gaslighting. Okay, they're great at gaslighting their players. They're great at gaslighting themselves. Some of them are better than others. But I don't know if this was actually Lane doing this or maybe a GA. I want to say that it would be a GA doing this, on his behalf. But Lane tweeted it out, and. And now, Norman Clark, Neville's dad, is out there with this, and I mean,
there were definitely some UCF players who definitely know about this. There were some tweets that were sent out by UCF players that were quickly deleted. They're very aware of this.
Yeah, they're aware now. First of all, I want to say that to those players, it warms my heart that they are coming to the defense of Brian Murphy. The second thing is, like, does Lane Kiffin not know how Twitter works?
Does Lane Kiffin not know how quote attribution works?
I don't think exactly how it works.
Okay,
I think this is the exact reaction he wanted.
Right.
But why? It makes him look like an idiot.
He likes stirring the pot. He's getting UCF fans all riled up before the game. But listen,
is that what he really wants to do heading into a UCF stadium, though?
Oh yeah, he wants to get under people's skin. Mm-hmm. Trust me, I think he's just an epic level troll. To be completely honest,
when I think of an internet troll, I think the image of Lane Kiffin is not the image that I conjure up in my head, but I think you're right about that, Luke. I just, my thought was initially like, okay, come on, Lane, you've probably taken journalism 101, and then I thought, no, he probably didn't, actually. But at the very least, he knows how, like, he knows how this works. He got called out on it. I mean, I don't think he said anything about it. And to be fair, he's been pretty complimentary of UCF, publicly at least, in terms of, what UCF has been able to do. Did Josh Heupel have anything to say about it, Brian?
Yeah, so we asked him about that, or I'll just say I asked about that today. He actually did say that, he believes.
Did he know it was you?
So I'll use the exact wording I used on the question. But first, he did say that, there can be some benefit to posting bulletin board material to kind of getting your guys more engaged early in the week. So I think if something like this happened with Josh Heupel, if there was somebody who's actually putting down one of his players, you might see him put that up in the locker room somewhere. You might not see it on Twitter, but he might actually use it as motivation. I did ask him, like in this exact phrasing, I said, have you seen that they've taken a quote from one of your players and put it up in the locker room? And I didn't say that, it's mostly my words.
Congratulations, you just promoted yourself to player.
Yeah, right, exactly. And he says, I've seen it. I don't think that's what the statement was necessarily, exactly word for word. But basically wrote it off as Lane Kiffin just basically wanting to make something out of nothing. He basically said that Lane pretty much, made the quote the way he wanted to make it. And at the end of the day, they're going to go out there and play Friday night, and we'll see where the best team wins. I will say just at the end of this, I'm glad that this will be over, because it's been really weird the last 36 hours to be somewhat involved in this. And but it's fun. It's funny. It's absurd. And that's what kind of makes sports kind of fun a lot of times, is we shouldn't get so bent out of shape with these little things that are very small and microscopic, and they're about sports, and they really have nothing to do with anything, but we do, because sports is just so passionate. So it makes it great. But I'm be looking forward to when this is over. Except if Neville Clark tomorrow or Friday, what day is it? Where am I? If he goes out and gets 15 tackles and 2 picks, and then we have to talk to him afterwards after the game, I'm obviously going to bring it up again, right? I kind of have to.
I think that if that happens, Neville Clark owes you a game ball.
We better be running some cornerback blitzes.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm looking forward to. I'm looking for a Richard Sherman-esque performance from Mr. Clark. All right, you can catch more of this on blackandgoldbanneret.com with the very apt headline: Neville Clark didn't say what Lane Kiffin said he said, and not to mention, make sure you get yourself prepared by reading Luke's preview, because once again, it's a fabulous preview of everything you need to know heading into Friday night kick. Friday night, 7 p.m. ESPN, right, guys?
ESPN, prime time, baby.
Prime time. All right, so that should be fun. And Jason Benetti will be down calling that game. I'm actually I knew Jason from my Syracuse days, so he and I crossed paths more than a few times. Can
I also put in a personal word about Jason Benetti?
Go for it.
I really hope I get to meet him, because for those of you who don't know, Jason Benetti has cerebral palsy, and so do I. And I just think it'd be really neat to meet him and say kind of what an inspiration he is. He does the Chicago White Sox play-by-play.
That's right.
For them every day. So people don't see him, and so they don't know that he has cerebral palsy. And I just think it's really cool what he's done on a national stage.
He's an amazing announcer too, and he works with Kelly Stoffer, who's going to be who's a former Seattle Seahawk quarterback who does a fine job. They're a great crew, and I'm looking. I do, and you'll be at the game, right? You'll be at the press box.
Oh, I'll be there.
Yeah. All right. Well, you'll have the chance. That'll be great. So yeah. I mean, I wish I could be there just to say hi from our Syracuse days, but unfortunately, I won't be able to be there. But Brian, you'll be there. I know that we'll be watching everything else unfold from afar. But it should be a good game. 7:00 Friday night, UCF against FAU. We're going to continue our preview of the game, coming up with Cyrus Smith, who follows FAU for SB Nation. He's the managing editor of Underdog Dynasty. We'll be talking to Cyrus here when we return, and then also we'll catch you up on kind of a wild week for the Olympic sports. Some big-time comebacks for UCF men's soccer. We got some hat tricks to pass out. And what's UCF Volleyball up to? How close were they to nearly falling in a match when they finally actually wrapped one up? So a big weekend of comebacks to go over with the Olympic sports as well. Stick around. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is back after this. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by the Unger Real Estate Group, brokered by eXp Realty. Sam Unger and his team proudly serve Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties, specializing in buying, selling, and new construction. He's a proud UCF graduate, class of 2006, and he's got a special deal going on right now for the 2018 football season. Night fans, if you work with Sam as your realtor, he will rebate you up to $750 at closing. So if you're ready to buy a new home or sell your current home, upgrade or downsize, Sam and his team have you covered so you can find the right home at the right price in the right location. So give them a call right now at 407-790-9957. Again, that's 407-790-9957. Or visit them on the web at WeSellOrlando.net. Again, that's WeSellOrlando.net. You can also reach them on Facebook at facebook.com/WeSellOrlando. Get in touch with the Unger Real Estate Group today and make finding your dream home a reality.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Andrew Fegley.
And I'm Trey Strelko. Where are we? This isn't our usual spot.
It looks like we've landed in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those guys.
You know, Nightline has UCF sports covered.
Week in and week out, we bring you interviews with newsmakers and in-depth analysis of UCF sports.
Subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to subscribe to Nightline on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at UCF_Nightline.
Trace, can we go back to the 1148 studios now and start working on our next all-new Nightline?
How do we get out of here? Go Knights!
Charge on.
Now back to you guys in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Luke Sarris, and Brian Murphy with you on the if you're getting this on Thursday, it's the eve of UCF against FAU on Friday night. And getting ready to join us is another one of our new friends from SB Nation, Cyrus Smith, who works for Underdog Dynasty. He's the managing editor over there, and he follows FAU. Interestingly enough, he's an Orlando kid who went down to FAU and follows FAU now, whereas I'm a South Florida kid who went to UCF and follows UCF now. So lots to talk about here. I know, Luke, you've worked with Cyrus for quite some time, and he has tremendous insight on FAU, and we're going to get that right now. So without further ado, here's our interview with Cyrus Smith of Underdog Dynasty. And joining us now, the managing editor of Underdog Dynasty, part of the SB Nation Network, as well as, he covers FAU. He has done so for the past 4 years, and also Conference USA in general. Cyrus Smith joins us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Cyrus, what's up, man?
What's up, man? I'm happy to be back amongst my Orlando people now that I've moved them out of Florida. So I feel like I'm back home just talking to you guys about UCF.
You're in like the perfect football time zone, man. You're out in Mountain now, which is just ideal, I think. It's football at 11 a.m. or at least pro football at 11 a.m. You can't beat that, man.
Right. Yeah. It's so weird. I wake up, eat breakfast, and then there's college football on at 10 a.m. It's amazing. I'm so thankful.
What a life, man! What a life, man! And the scenery is amazing too. We can't let you get away from the Sunshine State too much. We got this big game coming up here on Friday night between the FAU and UCF up here at the Bounce House. It's the first meeting between these two squads in 15 years. I was actually at that one. It was FAU's third season of football under Howard Schnellenberger, and FAU was FCS at the time, or I think at the time it was still called D1 AA. and UCF was coming off of a 7-win season, was primed to be a competitor in the MAC at that time, and in comes this FAU team with Jared Allen at quarterback, and they gave UCF a scare. UCF needed 497 yards from Ryan Schneider, which is still a school record for passing, believe it or not, even after Mackenzie Milton's year last season. And in addition, they had 100-yard receiving games from two young receivers named Mike Sims-Walker and Brandon Marshall in order to get past FAU. Well, what a difference 15 years makes. Now FAU is in the former 1A, now FBS, and coming off a conference championship under Lane Kiffin. People talk about the rise of UCF, Cyrus, but if you just from the lay of the land, like the rise of FAU as a football program has been nothing short of remarkable. When you think about, what Howard Schnellenberger did, and then what the program has done since. What are some of the things that make you think about what FAU has been able to do to become a major college football program?
It's honestly phenomenal. Back when I was in high school, the first time I kind of really heard of FAU was through the New Orleans Bowl, when that was like their first breakthrough season when they got good. And to think that they were playing their games not even in Boca Raton, but at a Lockhart High School, which is high school down in Fort Lauderdale. That's ridiculous. That's amazing to see that the transformation from the university to come from that to now having its own stadium, having the ability and the cachet to draw in a coach like Lane Kiffin, and also just kind of realize its potential. There was a lot of years in that mug where before Lane Kiffin arrived, where FAU was still trying to figure out who they wanted to be as far as administration, whether we should be a football school or a baseball school, whether we should stay in the Sun Belt. And fortunately, thanks to Dr. Kelly, by way of Clemson, he kind of came over and he instituted that same philosophy of really wanting to make FAU a football program first. Despite the success of the baseball program, which is, has been really tremendous throughout for about maybe 2 decades now, but under John McCormick. But as far as, finally taking the initiative to putting that stamp down and making FAU a football program first has really done wonders, not just for the school itself, but for the community, for the Boca Raton community, South Florida. People know who and where FAU is now. And it's just funny now that I walk around with FAU apparel, even in Colorado, people think of Lane Kiffin, and it's kind of, you wouldn't have not even gotten that reaction anywhere north of South Florida a few years ago. So it's crazy to see where the program has come away from.
I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Broward, and I came to UCF in 2001, and I went to high school down in Davie, not far from one of FAU's satellite campuses, which we were talking about just before he came on. And it's so funny. Like, FAU was considered almost like a 4-year community college when I was in high school, and
yes.
to see what the program has done now. It's a big state university. I mean, it's in the beautiful spot in Boca. At least when I came to UCF, we knew all about FAU from our days in the Atlantic Sun Conference back in the day. We know how good baseball is. Basketball was good. Won the A-Sun in 2002, and that was at UCF Arena back in the day. But to see the football program grow as it has, and to see FAU grow as it has been really something to watch. Last year under Lane Kiffin, that first year under Lane Kiffin, wow! I mean, you can't really ask for a much better result. 11-3, winning the conference, won the bowl game against Akron in a rather convincing fashion, and the expectations were high coming into this year for FAU. They had the date circled, obviously, for that first game against Oklahoma, but then they got totally steamrolled in that game. And I think that some of the luster nationally about the Lane train kind of went away. But with this game coming up against UCF, winners of 15 games in a row, the Knights are. I think FAU can really can sort of get some of that back. How much hype has been surrounding this game from FAU's perspective?
Well, I know just for me personally, being that I grew up in Orlando and went to University High School, once the game was announced in 2015, and that was pretty much by my junior, senior year at FAU, I knew that amongst the people that I hung out with and the students and the fans that I, predominantly spoken about the football program were super excited, not really just about the opportunity of playing UCF. At that time, I believe they might have been in the Big East or transitioning to the AAC, where they were kind of in flux about the power, BCS or non-BCS, whatever that was going to be. But it was mainly just about the opportunity of playing UCF and knowing that we got another regional opponent on the schedule, which is pretty cool. Right before that, I believe we were in the midst of a home with USF, and we were hoping that we can get UCF on the schedule as well. Just the regional programs for programs, regional games for programs such as FAU does a lot for the financially for the school, because it costs a lot of money, being that our TV situation with Conference USA isn't the best, to actually go out and get games. And that's why we had to play Oklahoma, which I believe gave us about $1 million to come. So having an opponent, especially an opponent like UCF that has the cachet now that they've come off the New Year's Six bowl win with against Auburn in the Peach Bowl, was a tremendous opportunity to put a stamp on the program, and for FAU to kind of have an arrive moment with that game. Of course, like you said before, the year prior, having Lane Kiffin come in and then the Lane train and then all of that hype kind of take off, we kind of came a year early before the game even arrived. So it's added a lot of hype, but I definitely, just speaking with a few fans on Twitter and a few from back home, expectations are definitely a bit down since the Oklahoma game, which is, it's kind of funny that, because I never really expected much out of the OU game, but it kind of reminded us, I should say, that we really aren't that far along for being 3-9, So it should be interesting to see how FAU and UCF stack up, especially because of the rosters are so familiar with each other, being that they all hail predominantly from the Sunshine State.
I'm more so curious of what you think of the performance through the first 3 games compared to that, what was it, an 8-game streak to end last season. Do you think the team is as explosive and performing at the same level as what you saw towards the end of last season?
What's funny is that, comparing the early non-conference portion of as far as the performance compared to last year, it's kind of the same way. Against Navy, there was huge high expectations, and of course we got steamrolled. And then after that, we followed that up with another loss, and then another loss. And we went 1-3, but the offense was just kind of out of sync. The defense didn't know what it was doing. We really kind of looked like the same porous 3-9 team from the years prior before things kind of just clicked in conference play. Comparing that to this year, it's kind of really the same way. High expectations for the Oklahoma game, got steamrolled. Had a middling performance against Arkansas, showed out against Bethune-Cookman, obviously, just because they're an FCS team. But there's a feeling that FAU can kind of start getting things rolling with this UCF game right before conference play starts. So as far as the performance and comparing it to the year prior, it's kind of on par. Just my expectations for the UCF game. I'm expecting a better performance, but it wouldn't shock me if we just completely laid an egg, just similar to last year, and before we kind of picked the ball up and got things rolling in conference play.
I mean, realistically, you could lose this game and still have a 12-win season, which would be phenomenal. That's what happened. You started conference play last season, and then you didn't lose again. So if you follow a similar path, FAU will, by the end of the season, it could be a 12-2 program and, potentially a top 20, top 15 team, in my opinion, anyway.
Right, yeah, which would be tremendous. But for a lot of the fans, and it's funny because, similar to what FAU is kind of going through with Miami, a lot of FAU fans are Miami fans. That's just how it is in South Florida. And they kind of give that same that braggadocio personality as far as expecting more of the program and heaping on these high expectations on the school. And a lot of people feel like FAU should compete for the New Year's Six. So there's a lot of expectations for the team to not only win 10, 11 games, but to take that immediate step up to with, UCF and the Boise States of the Group 5 conference world, where they could be on that national level. I've always kind of had tempered expectations as far as whether FAU could accomplish that this year, especially considering the coaching transition that we've had. But I'm sure that even though fans would definitely appreciate another back-to-back Conference USA championship season, I know for a fact that they want this win, and this win would definitely propel FAU to be in the conversation to be in the New Year's Six.
UCF fans are the same way. we all, both fan bases, I guess, they are quick to forget the woes of the past. We were 2 seasons removed from 0-12, and then, and now if we lose a game, it might be the end of the world for some of these fans. So I think that's just college football in general. But it's really nice to see support for that program, and it's very similar to the transition UCF made coming up, from the lower levels and eventually getting to the season like we had last season, and we're still growing. Yeah. But it's definitely great to see for FAU.
And that's what I really appreciate with FAU, in that, before going, just being a student there, the Boca Raton community is such a unique college campus. And I say that with air quotes or college town, because it's not really a college town, and it's never going to be a college town just because of the older residents that live there and how they want the city to be. So a lot of the ways the South Florida area, as far as Delray Beach, Deerfield Beach, and those other South Florida communities, have kind of really, what FAU is trying to do is kind of adopt those cities as their own and kind of make it a South Florida thing versus just the Boca Raton thing. And, comparing it with UCF, it was kind of the same way. There's a lot of older alumni from the Big Three that reside in Orlando. They kind of just adopted UCF as kind of like the hometown team, right? Because that was the slogan last year. We've seen kind of what happened with UCF as far as the rise in the fan base and the growing of the community. And, UCF has kind of put out that template as far as what FAU is trying and wants to be. And whether they can establish that as far as the university in itself is something that is definitely going to be interesting to follow in these next few years.
Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the field and what we can expect from the Owls in this game on Friday night. Chris Robinson, the true freshman quarterback for FAU, even despite the struggles in that Oklahoma game, is putting up some pretty solid numbers. He's pretty close to 69% passing. He's thrown for almost 800 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks so far. He's come in and more or less lit things up for FAU and taken command of Lane Kiffin's offense after last year when Jason Driscoll was running things for at least part of the season. So tell us about Robinson and what he brings to the table for the Owls.
Robinson has, very, very improved from the Oklahoma game. He's a lot more accurate of a passer than Jason Driscoll was, which adds another dimension. Last year, we were kind of predominantly a run-first team that kind of, really either did those little hitches, jet sweeps type of plays to get the passing game going, and then, using it as a catalyst, and that led to play action. This year, it's kind of a much more balanced approach, and that's mainly due to Robinson's attributes. He's not the runner like Driscoll was, which is kind of concerning because it doesn't open up the rushing lanes for Devin Singletary like it did last year. However, he is a much better passer, and in that, he's kind of been able to elevate the offense to a different dimension, assuming, of course, the offensive line and all the other kinks that's been kind of hiccuping this season has been fixed. So, again, FAU just feels very volatile. The talent is there. But being that, Robinson is just a redshirt freshman and it's only going to be his third career game starting, there's a lot of angst and anxiety that comes in watching him perform. You're just not completely sure what you're going to get out of him.
That sounds familiar, especially when you think back to Mackenzie Milton at UCF in 2016. But one of the things that you guys do have going for you, last year, Devin Singletary, almost a 2,000-yard season on the ground and 32 touchdowns, which was obviously among the nation's leaders. This year, he's off to a little bit of a slower start, if you could say, somewhat slower. He's averaging 4 yards a carry. Last year, he averaged 6.4. Has there been some level of attrition? Is he dealing with anything that, like a nagging injury or anything? What do you account for that slow-ish start from Singletary?
I think teams just have been able to key in on him. And being that Lane Kiffin's offense is really kind of dynamic in that there's a lot of tempo, but there's a lot of complexities with it too. Robinson just hasn't had gained a great grasp of the offense those first earlier games. So a lot of teams have been able to stack up the box, play one-on-one outside man coverage. And even though lanes have been there and passes have been able to kind of be converted necessarily, so to speak, he hasn't been able to convert them on a consistent basis where we can't get defenders out of the box. And in that way, Devin Singletary hasn't been able to perform to last year's standards. The offensive line is still pretty fine. We lost about 2 starters last year. And entering the season, that even I haven't really found any faults with their performance. It's just that there's a lot more attention to Devin Singletary. People know that the Owls will go as he will go. And so people have been keying in on Motor a lot lately.
How about the defense this year? Because, obviously you give up the 63 to Oklahoma. I mean, you almost have to kind of throw that out. But, gave up 27 in a close game against Air Force and 28 to Bethune last week in that home game. Are there some concerns on the defense as they get ready to face Josh Heupel's offense here in Orlando?
Yes, major concerns. Tony
well, at least you're for real about it.
New defensive coordinator Tony Vaccaro, coming over by way of Southern Miss, has a lot of blitzing tendencies. And we figured that might transition well with FAU, but that just hasn't been the case. The havoc plays as far as tackles for loss, interceptions, passes tips at the line of scrimmage, just hasn't been there this season. On top of that, we're not really getting to the quarterback as frequently, and we're not forcing any turnovers, which is what FAU really thrived on last year. So there's a lot of leaks, specifically in the secondary, which is really a surprise to a lot of FAU fans. All-conference performer Jalen Young, he was tremendous last year, had 7 interceptions, not heard of this season. Thule, all the other guys in the back 7, they're just not as productive as they were last year, which is really, really concerning considering UCF's explosiveness through the passing attack. So that's really a huge concern entering this game.
Yeah, we'll talk about a little bit more about Lane Kiffin in a little bit, but but Lane, you got to give credit to Lane. He's going to try and stir stuff up to try and get his team going. And look, coaches, as Brian Murphy, our colleague here at Black and Gold Banneret, said, coaches are going to coach. But in this week, he made a little bit of news from basically putting some words into the mouth of Neville Clark from UCF, and putting it on a little bulletin board poster where where the quote was, quote, "He's a pretty good back," talking about Devin Singletary. However, I look forward to stopping him dead in his tracks. The problem with that is Neville Clark never actually said that. He and Kiffin, or maybe his GA or whoever is in charge of bulletin board material in the FAU football office, kind of pulled that quote from a story that Brian did for the Orlando Sentinel, where Neville Clark didn't say anything. It didn't say anything other than he said he was a pretty good back. It was Brian who actually wrote in the following sentence, however, he is looking forward to that challenge and stopping Conference USA's reigning most valuable player dead in his tracks. So again, Neville Clark didn't say that, and yet Lane Kiffin made it look via his Twitter account as though he did. This made a little bit of news this year. What do you make of the story? This seems to me like the classic, ridiculous college football Twitter, bulletin board material story. But I don't know. That's
just Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin.
Okay, all right, that's what I figured. There's nothing
other extra towards that. That's just part of the Lane train, the theatric that's been part of the job. And, that's what athletic directors have been kind of worried about with Lane Kiffin as far as his control on Twitter and what he tweets out and what he doesn't do. And FAU's been able to, to their credit, has given him free reign to do whatever he wants and these other type of things that you would do.
I mean, what is it about Lane? Like at FAU, I mean, the headlines that he made, from USC, from Tennessee to USC to Alabama and everywhere in between. But what is it about Lane at FAU that just seems to work? And what is it that that kind of makes you, as somebody who follows FAU so closely, just kind of cringe a little bit?
He's just been given free reign to do what he wants. Last year, he brought in Kimber Biles, which was something I was completely against and did not necessarily approve of, just as an alumni of the school and knowing what Biles was associated at Baylor. And, the Board of Trustees and FAU school president, athletic director at the time, Pat Chun, approved it. And that's just like, we had to accept that that's just what Lane would do, Theatrics be damned. He doesn't really care. He just wants to win games. But he's been a lot more comfortable in his skin, and he's really embraced that attitude as far as improving FAU and taking on kind of the same Howard Schnellenberger mantra, which was pretty much saying that, hey, you can win championships at FAU, which no one really believed except for Schnellenberger himself. So Lane Kiffin's kind of adopted that approach, and he produced last year. So fans have been kind of okay with it, but there are moments like this where you just kind of wish that you could just do without,
Do you think he'll stick around long?
Everyone kind of mentioned that he was one and done, but I never saw that case. I felt like just reading his posts and all the stories and feature profiles that he felt really different from his time at USC. So I've always said that if he can give us 2 years, that'd be fine. I think he's going to give us 3 years. I think he'll be back again next year, and then by 2019, he'll be off to somewhere.
You think 2 years is fine until it happens, and then you can't cope with it.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
But I also think he really enjoys just being able to do whatever he wants, and he's not going to get that kind of ability anywhere else in the country.
Yeah, there's a certain beauty to that, I think, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's that having that kind of freedom is. I mean, you can't really find it much anywhere else. I think UCF was willing to do that. It's interesting. UCF was willing to do that with George O'Leary when he came on board in 2004, and George had a lot of latitude, and he was able to keep that latitude, and he stayed for 10 years. Will Lane stay 10 years? Like I know, Cyrus, you're saying 3, but I just wonder about, like, are there other schools that would be willing to take the risk? And kind of give him the sort of carte blanche that he has at FAU, or are they like, you know what, Lane's okay down in FAU. I don't think we kind of want to deal with that right now. You know what I mean? It's kind of a difficult debate to have internally if you were an athletic director for another school, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on what you're willing to put up with and then winning. I kind of posed the question, earlier, just thinking to myself, whether he would take the Georgia Tech job, which is a very academically prestigious job, but it's located in the hub of Atlanta. Right. And I don't think that Georgia Tech would take him because of, who they would choose to represent themselves as a university. Now, you flip all of that around, and let's say Mark Drick retires in like 2-3 years. I definitely can see him fitting in perfectly fine at the University of Miami.
Oh, boy.
So it's all about, completely fine as far as with that swagger and who that university would like to portray themselves as the football school. So I can definitely see him fitting in, but it is going to be a case-by-case basis as far as what Power 5 program decides to take him, if any.
Yeah, I mean, if you're bringing on Lane, you're bringing all the baggage that comes with him. So, but FAU so far to this point has, like you said, Cyrus, dealt with the baggage quite well, and I guess we'll see what happens on Friday night. Quickly before we let you go, prediction for the game.
Man, I have a bunch of UCF friends, bunch of UCF alums who I know well, and they know all summer I've been talking trash to them about the game. But once the game has arrived, I'm not feeling as confident. I see the game going out 45-31. I do think FAU will have a bounce-back game as far as their performance on the big stage. However, I just think Mackenzie Milton, those guys are just really too explosive, and I'm not a fan of FAU secondary as far as how they're performing and getting the blitz schemes and the concepts down from this new defensive coordinator. I think there's going to be a lot of holes in the secondary, and I feel like Mackenzie Milton should be able to exploit them pretty fine. Defensively, for UCF, I haven't really been that necessarily afraid of the Randy Shannon defense, just dating back to his Florida days. But I do think that there's enough talent there that'll just bottle up FAU. And like I mentioned before, the Owls are still extremely volatile, so I just don't see them performing at a consistent enough basis to, keep pace with the Knights, unfortunately for me.
Well, we wish we could see you down here for the game, unfortunately, but
I know.
That would have been something, man. But we'll have to catch up another time in person at some point. If you ever find yourself back in the Orlando area, give us a holler. We'll get together.
Absolutely, will do.
All right, sounds good. Cyrus Smith from Underdog Dynasty. Real quick before I let you go, Cyrus, tell everyone where they can reach out to you and where UCF fans can send their I told you so's.
At Cool Cy Rights is where you can find me on Twitter. As far as Underdog Dynasty, at Underdog Dynasty on Twitter as well. Just be sure that, definitely wait until that final score before you guys start coming at me, because I will give it back to you.
I've seen it before firsthand, too. Thanks, Cyrus. Have fun out in Denver and enjoy the game Friday night. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. You guys, too. Be safe, guys.
All right, thanks to Cyrus. Again, Cool Cy Rights on Twitter and Underdog Dynasty on Twitter as well to get in touch with him and see everything that he has on the FAU Owls. All right, guys, let's wrap up this game preview. Score predictions. I know we don't ask for those very often because we get ourselves in trouble, but I don't know. This game just kind of feels all over the map to me. Luke, we'll start with you. What you got?
Just like in my article, I'm sticking with my 52-31. I think FAU will be able to put some points on the board. I don't think their defense will be able to contain us. I think it'd be a high-scoring game, but 52-31. But at the same time, I predicted we were going to score 63 against South Carolina State, and look how that turned out. So, who knows?
Brian?
This is like the same helpless feeling as I picked two random numbers out of the air. I'll go 45-27. Defense may not be great again, but there's plenty of offense to get over the top.
This feels like 45-31. I don't know why. I mean, I think we will have a lot of points. I'm thinking that the over is definitely in play. 45-31 would hit both the over, and also it would be UCF would win that against the spread, right? So,
well, I think the over 77. You're at 76.
77. Okay. I thought it was 71.
Well, no, it's 77.
Oh, it's 77 now. Oh,
48-31. It is.
48-30. Okay, there you go. I mean, that's what we got. Don't forget Luke's preview and all of Brian's work is welcome. All right, let's check in with our Olympic sports. I want to start by talking about volleyball because you guys know how much I love volleyball. And they got a sweep in their in their second home tournament of the year as they get ready for conference play, the Volley Nights Invitational. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world in the final match. So in their schedule, they played Alabama State and Florida Gulf Coast, swept them both on Friday. Came into Saturday against Yale, and Yale's pretty good. They're going to compete for the Ivy League title, and UCF jumped out 2-0, but Yale came storming back. Won the next two sets, pushed it to 5, and actually in the fifth, there was a wild fifth set between these two. UCF jumped out 9-5. Yale came storming back, took a 13-10 lead. Remember, they played a 15 in the fifth, and then UCF racked up 5 points in a row and closed out the match. Some awards to pass out. For UCF Volleyball, Jordan Pingle, once again winning one of the weekly awards from the American Defensive Player of the Week award. McKenna Melville also had a fantastic weekend for UCF. So they are finished with non-conference play. They are headed into the American Athletic Conference schedule with their first match of the conference season, 7 p.m. Friday. At USF at the same time, right across from the football game, but again, they're at Tampa, so it won't be volleyball happening on campus. And in fact, UCF will be away for their first 3 matches of the conference season. They don't play again at home until the weekend of Friday, October 5th, when they play Tulsa at home, and then Sunday, October 7th, big match against Wichita State. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. As they head into conference play, and then eventually we get the RPI out and all that. So UCF Volleyball right now 9-3, really good start. First time since 2016 that they've gotten off to as good a start. 750 in the conference is a good way to start. By the way, got some sound from that match. Here is we'll start with Coach Dagenet.
I can't tell you how resilient I thought that we were. Were we good? No. Did we play as clean as what we want to play? No. But we played with all the heart, all the passion, all the desire of a champion. We worked as hard as you could work, and we were lucky that it broke in our favor.
All right, so UCF volleyball at 9-3. Now, soccer. All right, we need to talk about soccer because we've got something brewing here with UCF men's soccer. They are really heating up. They are 12-2-2 in their last 16, going back to last year, 5-1-1 this season, coming off of a rather dramatic 4-2 victory at Stetson, where they were down 2-1. And this is pretty amazing, guys. They were down 2-1 heading into the 88th minute. And then this is what happened. Hattie Barry scored at 87:07 of the game to tie it. 9 seconds later, Cal Jennings scores the go-ahead goal. 9 seconds. Now, I tried to double-check. I wasn't sure if this is the fastest time between goals in UCF history, but doggone it, it's got to be pretty close. 9 seconds. Like I don't even recall the last time that. Have you guys seen anything like that happen in any sport? Like 2 goals in 9 seconds in like hockey or something like that?
I feel like that's happened in hockey, but that makes more sense. It's a faster game with like on an ice sheet.
Yeah,
not
smaller field of play, right?
Yeah, not on soccer where it's like grass and a larger field of play. It doesn't quite make much sense.
The 9. It says here in the release, the 9 seconds it took for UCF to score its second and third goal was the second fastest by a team in Division I history. And then they weren't done because, 57 seconds later, 1 minute and 57 seconds later, Cal Jennings scored his third goal of the match to wrap the scoring. So UCF ends up scoring 3 goals in the span of less than 2 minutes to wrap up their game against Stetson. And Cal Jennings, Offensive Player of the Week in the American with the hat trick, his second hat trick of the season. And he is second in the nation right now in goals scored. He's got 9. The leader, I believe, has 13, but he is off to a whale of a start for UCF men's soccer. By the way, UCF 3-0 on the road this year. They are on a roll. Their next game is at Temple to start the conference slate. Again, Friday at 7 p.m. A lot of UCF stuff going on Friday at 7 p.m., but this is at Philadelphia. They're back home Friday, September 28th at 7 p.m. to face SMU. And in the middle of that, I should say, as we flip over to women's soccer, it was a tough week for Stetson soccer teams against UCF. So the following day, after the men's soccer team beat Stetson with the 3 goals in 0.5 of a second, women's soccer went up to play Stetson and came away with a 5-1 victory. Not so dramatic, but another hat trick for UCF. This time it was Stephanie Sanders, the Germany native who was on the German U20 team. Well, she scored 3 goals to push UCF past Stetson 5-1. So in the span of about 93 minutes of soccer, UCF soccer teams outscored Stetson 8-1. So not a bad weekend of work. UCF is 3-3-1 right now, but this is what I thought was the most impressive thing. I didn't even realize the statistic. This is the most amazing statistic I've seen. UCF women's soccer all time against Stetson. Care to guess what their record might be?
How many times have they played?
22 times.
So I'll be generous and say 21-1.
Oh man, I was going to say that.
All right. You'll have to take the over on that one. UCF is 22-0-0 all time.
Wow.
22 wins, no losses, no ties ever against Stetson. Wow. that is, like, I don't think there's any other team that UCF has played in any sport as many times and has never lost or tied. I mean, that's amazing. So, yeah, here's the story with women's soccer. They're kind of off to that squirrely start because of the early games that they played against Texas and North Carolina. It kind of threw everything off. They got the tie against Maryland and lost to George Mason. They start conference play as well. Thursday, September 27th. So they've got some time off. They got 11 days off until the Temple game, and then they're at UConn Sunday, September 30th at noon. Back home Thursday, October 4th for the home conference opener against East Carolina. So that's your update on the Olympic sports. That was a wild weekend, man. The 9 seconds between the goals I thought was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. There's video of it. Actually, we have it on blackandgoldbanneret.com that UCF was able to. There was actually a technical glitch with Stetson's video feed, so they found the coach's video and they posted it. And it was, believe it or not, I think I saw this. The goal, the second goal on the back end of the 9 seconds was, believe it or not, off of a corner.
So there was a foul
in 9 seconds.
Yeah, no, it wasn't off of a foul. It was off of a corner kick. So somehow UCF gained possession off the restart, forced the ball down Stetson's end, and then it went off of a Stetson player, and then UCF had a corner off of that, which was, I don't know, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, 9 seconds.
How far out was the first shot? How far out did they try to score?
I don't know.
I need to look at the video.
I need to look at the video too, but it looked like it was off of a corner. But
this is the 2018 edition of the Zapruder film at this point.
Yes, I know.
You need to see it.
So, all right, so let's wrap this thing up here on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Luke, I will start with you. You've got your preview up. What else you have in mind coming this week?
Preview should have the instant recap of the game, post game, and you might have a few surprises up my sleeves. I need to hit the drawing board, but yeah, I'm excited for Friday.
Yeah, I mean, this should be a good game for Friday. It'll be good to kind of hang out. And you know what the best part about this is? It's just like the first week on with the Thursday night game with UConn is like we can just hang out on Saturday and watch football. We don't have to worry about it.
It's weird. It felt like football season started, and then this whole week has felt like, or going back to last week, has felt like
it's been weird.
Still the off season,
because
we had that early bye. But I'm excited to get back to action.
Brian, what you got?
I got things, Jeffrey. I got things. I'll be posting the potent quotables, which I've been mocked by my friends for stealing a Jeopardy category and turning it into whatever that is. Potent quotables. After the game, I'll be sort of highlighting what was said after the game against FAU. Pretty sure I want to post something else before the game on Thursday, maybe Friday morning. Not sure exactly what, but something will be up there. And then whatever things might happen. Like Luke said, we got ideas, Jeffrey. We got things cooking.
We got a lot of stuff going on. We got a lot of stuff. There's a lot happening. There's just a lot going on here. No, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I also wanted to thank Chris Carter. He's been following things and doing those sort of deep dive analysis as well. You can check that out as well. He's also been following things that have been going on around UCF schedule, posting highlights on that. And also check out Eric Lopez, his Elo's 7 points this week on Cal Jennings, the UCF men's soccer's goal-scoring machine, second in the country in goals right now. So that should be a lot of fun, too. And also, and I guess we'll wrap with this. I actually did a little comparison based off a quote I saw from the BOAT himself, Blake Bortles. I know.
How did we not debate this earlier? Because we went back and forth on Twitter.
Now's the time. We're going to settle this. We'll put the all right. The debate now. Blake Bortles kind of tongue-in-cheekishly kind of said to Calais Campbell on Jacksonville Jaguars weekly show. He said they asked him, or a viewer actually asked, following obviously Blake's amazing performance against New England, which UCF team would win if his 2013 team, the Fiesta Bowl team, played the 2017 team, the undefeated national champions. And Blake said, and I quote, "We'd run them out of the stadium," end quote. Now, I decided it would be a genius idea to actually take a look at the numbers. And it turns out the numbers pretty much favor the 2017. Certainly they do on offense. The 2017 team also faced their opponents had a higher combined win percentage than 2013's team. The one edge where 2013 did have was third down percentage.
Didn't we have a post on? Didn't we have a poll on Twitter about this?
We did put a poll on Twitter. It's actually still active right now.
Okay. So by the time you listen to this, people, this will expire.
It'll still be there. Listen, if you're no. I said it for 7 days. It should still be up there by the time
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I thought it was 24 hours.
No.
Never ending.
It should be a forever poll. Yeah, exactly.
Forever poll.
So, all right. So they had the 2013 team had the advantage in time of possession, third down, red zone, on offense. They had the advantage on a few defensive categories, gave up fewer yards, held opponents to a lower red zone percentage, lower rushing yards per game, lower passing yards per game. But they didn't force as many turnovers as the 2017 team did. And on special teams, UCF had a better kicking game in 2013. UCF had a better return game in 2017. So I will throw it to you, Luke Sarris, because we debated this a bit on Twitter. Who you got if we could crank up the Madden machine and do this?
Now, let me first say when I was tweeting back and forth with you earlier, that wasn't me picking the 2013 team. I just wanted to make the point that and you could pull up wins loss opponent win loss percentage, whatever, so on and so forth. I firmly believe the schedule in 2013 was much more difficult than what UCF faced last season. I know Penn State was only a 7-5 team, but when you go into Beaver Stadium in front of 90,000 people, I think that's a tough game for any opponent, let alone a school who's not used to an atmosphere like that. South Carolina ended the season 12-2, I believe. To battle with them to stay within a field goal, on the road, took Louisville out, in their house. Even Houston was 8-5 that season. I think the schedule was much tougher in that season compared to 2017, and it was the team. 2013 was 4 points away from being an undefeated team. So with that being said, you're looking at George O'Leary, who's gonna eat up play clock, versus Scott Frost, who was UCF fast. Two polar opposite teams.
Yeah.
But if I was going to put money on the team, I would probably take 2017. But I think, that was the first true, real magical season. So that 2013 team will always have a special place in my heart. But I guess if I had to pick, I would pick 2017. But the point I was making earlier was comparing the schedules. I think 2013, the road was much harder than 2017.
The interesting part about this is, you alluded to this, is that styles make fights, right? This is if you could imagine this ever happening, this would be the classic, complete, like you said, polar opposites of one another facing off between these two teams. Interestingly enough, I forgive me, somebody who follows us on Twitter actually sent this to me. It was a website called college football, NCAA GameSim.com. Have you guys seen this?
I'm the one who tweeted it to you.
That's okay. Well, but someone else said it. Was it you or was it someone else?
No, it was me.
No, there was someone else. I'm telling you, there was somebody else here that actually had it. I swear. And you also sent it over to me. Who was it? Zach McElroy. Did he send it before or after? I think he sent it. He sent it before you. It was 20 hours ago. So that was yesterday. Yeah. Sorry, Luke.
Well, now I feel dumb.
No. I'm glad you guys sent this to me, and it's actually really cool if you get the chance to do this. I don't know who runs this site, but it's amazing. So they've run. You can pick like a year and a team from 2018, 2019, all the way back to 2011, 2012. So we simulated 2017 UCF and 2013 UCF. It's been simulated 100, and it keeps track of the number of times it simulates the game, right? And so this matchup has been simulated 152 times. Out of the 152, the 2018 team has won 100 times. 2014 obviously is 152, so that's a 66-34% split. They calculated that it went to overtime 7 times. 2018 won by 20 points or more 43 out of the 100 times. 2014 won by 20 points or more 6 out of the 52 times that they won. The average score out of the 152 simulations was 33.1 to 24.7.
Now, just as a side note, it lists the years like 13, 14, 17, 18.
Yeah.
So I know you just said 2018, 2014, but that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No, it was 2017 versus 2013.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. Good call, because it's kind of like it kind of lists them like basketball seasons.
Yeah.
So I said 2018 when I really meant it was 2017. But yeah, no, that's really good. If you ever get the chance to check it out, NCAA Game Sim, and make sure you thank Luke for it because that was a good find by you, and also thanks to Zach for sending that over as well. And maybe we can the more simulations we run, but it seems like I don't know. However, the simulation runs, the 2017 team has the clear advantage. Brian, let me ask you: in an imaginary game between these two, who would you take?
I'd probably take. Well, I mean, God, I can't believe I'm being really serious about this. I'd probably take the 2017 team because people should remember too. I don't know if the simulation system is just running off of end of season stats, but if you take the 2017 defense and just take it before the Austin Peay game, basically the first half of that season, it's a top 10 defense. Like statistically, that was a top 7 or 8 defense as far as scoring defense. And so there was a really well-rounded team until the final month of the season when the defense, which was admittedly tired, kind of fell apart.
Yeah, they were running out of gas.
I think that 2017 team was just better on both sides of the ball. Yeah.
By the way, I should note that we ran UCF against Alabama from 2017 versus 2017. Do you guys care to know what the results are there?
It depends what they are.
I'm sure the listeners care. Let's go.
This is probably going to invalidate the entire website.
Oh boy.
Closer than you think. It's been simulated 1,176 times. Alabama wins by an average score of 33.4 to 23.3. They win 71.4% of the matchups. And it goes to overtime 24 times, so that's 2%. UCF wins 336 of them. As 6.3% of them, UCF wins by 20 points or greater. But yeah, I mean that's what it's showing. So
I want to run UCF versus Auburn and see what the computer would spit out in that simulation. Because listen,
let's do it.
20% odds are low, but all it takes is one of those odds, and what were the odds we would have gone 13-0?
Here you go. Ready?
Yes.
It's been run. UCF and Auburn last year has been run 815 times. Obviously, the more you get, larger sample size.
Are these simulations pressed by people? Like, are these like visitors who want to know?
Yes.
Yeah. This is what's great about it.
I sit here at night and just click the refresh button.
And that's what Luke Sarris does at night, ladies and gentlemen.
Interestingly enough, Luke Sarris, listen to this. Auburn, of the 815 times that's been simulated, wins 509 times. That's 62.5%. By 20 or greater, 18.9%. UCF wins 37.5% of the time. 21 times it goes to OT. Average score, Auburn 29, UCF 24.7.
That's actually pretty close to what we had in the Peach Bowl.
Fairly close, I would say. I mean, flip it, obviously, yeah. but yeah. Okay. If you walked up to me that morning and you said UCF has about a 37.5% chance of winning the game, I would say, yep, that sounds about right, and I'll take my chances.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
Brian?
The computer.
What do you think?
That sounds all right. It's funny how the scores, I think, for all of these games feel somewhat muted. I think all the scores are kind of lower than I would expect. But, yeah, I mean, like, as far as the percentage chances, like, yeah, this random computer generator seems to be doing just fine.
I love this kind of stuff. I'm such a geek. I really need help.
You need to check out whatifsports.com.
I have seen whatifsports.com. I love that place. It's, oh my God, no, get me away from here before I start.
The only bone to pick with them is they never updated with 2017 football stats. So I don't know if they gave up on the project. But
I hope not. But I don't know. We'll have to see. What was the simulation that I just ran now? UCF beating Alabama 20-19. All right. Yay. All right.
No way it would be that low scoring.
Yeah, this thing is like really playing up the defense.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, hey, why not, right? But yeah, I don't know how it runs these play-by-play these play-by-play these play-by-play things so quickly. That's mind-boggling to me. But anyway, worth checking out. NCAAGamesim.com. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Brian, where can people reach you other than Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, you can reach me on the internet. It's a series of tubes. I'm at @spokes_Murphy on Twitter.
And Luke Sarris, where can people reach you?
On Twitter at Luke Sarris SBN.
And you can reach me at Jeff_Sharon. You can reach all of us at UCF_Banneret. Don't forget to follow us on Friday night, 7 p.m. kickoff between UCF and FAU. Our live game thread starts an hour before that at 6 p.m. And we will, most of us will be there at least. I know Brian will be there. I'll be there. Everybody will be checking.
Luke, you'll be there as a fan, or you'll be there, right?
Yeah, you're going to be at the game, right?
I will be in the Black and Gold Cabana cheering on the Knights.
You're in the cabana?
I am. I splurged.
Get out.
What side of the state? Are you on the UCF tunnel side?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Dude, we need a review.
I can do one, but it's not going to be good.
Why not?
Wait, I can guess. Luke, how old are you?
Here I am putting Luke on the spot. Jeez Louise.
I am 25.
Here we go. I have a good reason why this is not going to be a good review, but I approve of this reason.
Wait, I think we're on. What do you think is the reason?
Will you not be enjoying any libations?
Well, no. Honestly, here's. I'll give you the quick rundown.
Yep, we've heard this one before. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
This is the issue. So I buy these tickets and we go through the process and we get last seats in the row. So I'm like, perfect. I am on the end of an aisle because I like being on the end of an aisle. And it turns out, since I'm on the last seat of the last section, there's this gate separating the peasants from the upper echelon.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people in the section over who have normal seats have a walkway. I have a gate nudged up against me.
So are you on the far, like if you were sitting in the press box, are you on the far end or are you next to the tunnel?
If you're looking at the Black and Gold Cabana from the press box, I'm in the bottom right corner.
Right. So you're going to be you're closer to the near side.
Gotcha. Yeah. If you're looking on TV, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll definitely be seeing you then.
You'll see me nudged in my corner.
Yeah.
You got to send us pictures. And like, if someone runs up to you, I mean, you got oh man, I wish I was there. Man, Luke, golly. Unbelievable.
I'll go up to the press box. You take my ticket. You can sit with my buddies and get the full experience.
Yes, because that'll go over well with everybody. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. It's also where you can hit us up on Facebook. And as always, at blackandgoldbanneret.com. We are SB Nation's home for UCF sports. And tell your friends about this podcast. Leave us a rating. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and tune in. For Brian and Luke, I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the game Friday night at 7. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. And we'll catch you again next week.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.